How do you make your money, Gary?
I make my money in a lot of ways. You know, Wine Library is a very successful business that I built that kicks me distributions at the end of the year on its profit. Vaynermedia is gonna do $100 million in revenue this year, and I'm gonna get substantial distributions from that. I'll probably make several millions of dollars public speaking. I've got companies that will exit this year, hopefully, if the bubble doesn't burst. That will give me profit from that. I'll probably go garage sailing on a random day in the summer and buy some stuff and flip it on eBay and make a couple $1,000 that way.
How can you be your best self doing all those things? I'm guessing if I'm a consumer product company that works with you, and I see all your Instagramming and all your events and all your public speaking, I would pick up the phone and say, Gary, I pay you a shit ton of money. What are you doing out there promoting yourself? You should be working for me.
Sure. I think it comes in a lot of different ways. First of all, I think that nobody's paying me. They're paying Vaynermedia. Vaynermedia is a—
That's you.
No, it's not. That's what you think you want to say, but it's just not true. Vaynermedia is not me. I'm Gary Vaynerchuk.
So if you left, you would not, Vaynermedia wouldn't lose clients.
Vaynermedia would lose clients, but not because of Gary V, but because I'm disproportionately the operating CEO of the company, and when you have a CEO that's great and runs a business and leaves, a business loses business.
But that's what I want to get to. I do know that. Okay. So we have so many people in this room who are entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Or they want to be entrepreneurs, but they have day jobs.
Yes.
And they have lots of other commitments, and they look at you and all that you do, and they think, I don't even have the time to compose a tweet. Walk me through again, how can you be your best self in all these different verticals and deliver on every single one?
Because I'm self-aware of what makes me tick. Like, I need a lot of chaos. I'm the same person that comes to the office, and when everybody's head down and had headphones on, I'm like, can somebody please play music and make it louder? I need chaos. It's my oxygen. I need to be doing 4, 5, 6, 7 things. It's when I'm at my best. And Steph, really simply, like, this is a results-driven business. You're a big girl. GE and Pepsi and Unilever and J&J, they're not overwhelmed by the Gary V mystique. They're not keeping us and renewing us because I'm clever or because it's fun or because I razz or because I curse. It's because we deliver. I've built a company that is a machine, not me, that can deliver on the KPI for several different reasons. First and foremost, Madison Avenue agencies are not good at what they do in a 2016 world, and there's an enormous white space. It's my sister.
Can we answer it?
Yes. Sis, I'm on stage.
Why isn't she here?
Why aren't you here? I love you more, love you more. So I'm able to, because—
She didn't want to come?
She didn't want to come.
She didn't want to come. Eric came 24 hours on a bus from Sioux Falls, and your sister didn't want to come?
As my sister would say, I know that bullshit. I grew up with it. Look, I think that it comes down to the fact that I just outwork most people. You know, I'm working on Vaynermedia 10, 11 hours a day. I mean, it's, you know, that's more than enough by most standards in the marketplace that I'm in. When you're working 15 and 16, it gives you time to compose a tweet.
You decided about 18 months ago that as hard as you wanted to work and as committed as you were, you then made a decision that in order for you to operate at your best level, you had to make health, wellness, and fitness a huge priority in your life that you hadn't before.
Yes.
Has it changed your performance?
No.
It's made your selfie look better though?
Yes. It really hasn't. My energy level is not up. I don't feel that different. I feel stronger. Like when I grab my suitcase from the, you know, seriously, I feel stronger. I'm stronger, my energy level's the same. Mike and I were talking about it today. My energy level's the same, but maybe when I'm 59 or 72, my energy level will be different. It just became obvious to me that that was a vulnerability for me and that I needed to address it, and so I did.
That's exactly what I want to get to.
Okay.
For you, you look for vulnerabilities across your life, across your businesses, because you need to narrow the margin of error. If anything, you spend a lot of your life risk managing.
Yes.
As you look across your life now, where do you see those vulnerabilities? What are you attacking and addressing? Because people who are young don't necessarily think about risk management. They just are grabbing and going and grabbing and going, and they're not necessarily paying attention to what's around them.
You know, in business, not a lot, to be very honest with you. Meaning, in the business world, I feel very comfortable that things are going according to plan. I'm sure there's something going on that I don't see, but as we sit here today, I don't see a huge vulnerability. I'm building a very conservative business, client service. Think about what I did, Steph, for a second.
When I think Gary, I think conservative, totally.
But you know what's funny? I think I'm stunningly conservative. Let me give you the story of this.
Please.
6 years ago, at the height of my momentum, I'm hanging out with Mark Zuckerberg and Travis and Saka and all this stuff. I've just made all these great angel investments, right? Things are going super well. I have a book that's a year straight on the New York Times bestselling list with Crush It. I'm getting all these opportunities. Everything is going phenomenal. I decide to take a step back and not do a startup, which I could have raised $50 million for in a heartbeat, not start a $100 million fund. Stick with me because this is really real business and this is where you're going with this conversation. I decide to build a client service business, which is an 8 times EBITDA exit business, because I thought the most stable and conservative thing I could do was to scale the skill set that I had around marketing, and that I would build a client business. And I got enormous pushback. I got made fun of by all my Silicon Valley friends. This was the golden beginning of the era of this whole thing. And I took a step back and I built a very boring 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s business.
But it wasn't very boring, because if you look at consumer product businesses, if you look at Fortune 500 companies, they are desperate, I'm gonna use this event's word, for your genius. They couldn't figure out.
I don't know about that. I mean, every one of my clients spends 80%, 70% of their money on television, print, and outdoor media, and not on digital. And of the 30% they spend on digital, 80% of that is spent on horseshit banner ads or pre-rolls on YouTube. So they're not so fucking desperate with their actions. They may say it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
But in theory, aren't they? But when it goes to practice, if you look at any monster business, you could look at finance, media, healthcare, whatever they are, those are Titanic-sized businesses that don't make good decisions because they're filled with middle management who make short-term decisions to preserve their own jobs.
Be careful, not just middle management, the CEOs that you sit with every single goddamn day, every morning looking bright and peppy, every fucking morning, you sit with CEOs who make short-term decisions because they just care about their bonuses and their stock options in a 12 to 18 month period.
Yes, and the reason they hire you is because they can point to it and say, digital, look, I paid Gary all that money. And then they can check it off their to-do list.
That's 100% right.
So that being the case, who cares if they're making their digital spend in nonsense? They just need to get to one more day. And you need to, you don't, because you just need to get paid by them, which you are.
That's where you're being confused. I do. Let's take a step back. Why do I have Vaynermedia? I have Vaynermedia because 7 years ago, I decided the best course of action for me to buy the New York Jets was to buy brands, grow them, and flip them. I needed to buy big brands because that's where the dollars were. I knew how to build $50 or $100 million business. I wanted to buy a business for $200 million and grow it to $1 billion business because that $800 million is a nice profit margin and that gets me on my path, right? So what I needed to do was go learn what corporate America and Fortune 500 companies were doing that I didn't understand in entrepreneur and tech land. I don't want their money, Steph. I want the client that actually lets me do my shit. If I'm only able to spend $1 million or $2 million when they're spending $400 million overall, I can't move the needle or understand if my thesis or my bullshit actually works. So I don't want their fucking money. I can make more money speaking than have J&J as a client. I want their permission to reallocate those dollars to actually drive business results so I can learn at scale. So once I fully believe I've got it, I can go do it for myself. That's what I need. Makes sense, right?
In your experience,
yes,
you work with private companies,
yes,
you work with companies that are run by founders,
yes,
you work with public companies run by employees.
Full gamut. It's important, I need the context.
Is there a difference in the way they conduct their business? Because those public companies are forced into short-term decision making, and the people who run those companies are employees, not founders. Do you see a difference in their behavior?
Yes, because on the reverse, so that's bad, but on the reverse, so many of the kids in this audience and in the game right now, when they get funding, aren't trying to build an actual business. You know, this has been something I've been ranting on. It's fun that you were skiing this weekend. I've been saying this over and over for the last 90 days. No, but you are more than allowed because of the way you're playing. I have people who are literally about to go out of business. Literally, in the next 180 days, if they do not raise money, they're out of business, that are literally fucking skiing this weekend. Are you out of your mind as an entrepreneur? Like, we are living through—
Yeah, but they're skiing with their friends that they met at Burning Man, and that's important.
Yeah. And that's and you and I are both wise enough to know this, that this is exactly what happened in 1998, 99, 2000, 2001, when a lot of these Burning Mans were invented. And a lot of those same people who were skiing on the weekend then had an 8-year career working at Nabisco or NBC or Bain & McKinsey, because when the money runs out, they go and get jobs. And that's what's gonna happen, which is quite sad, because the 2016 internet versus the 2001 internet is very different. It is quite practical to build a business where you can make $100,000 or $200,000 a year in today's day, and it wasn't in 2000. And so all these entrepreneurs that are choosing the glitz and the glamour and the brand of it versus actually spending time to build a practical business are gonna be they're gonna be so sad in 3 years when they're in their cubicle working for somebody else, realizing they wasted that opportunity to build something practical versus just shooting for the dream.
But Gary, they're choosing to waste it.
Yes.
When you speak to many of these entrepreneurs and you ask them about profitability, they say, well, we don't comment on profitability, but can I tell you who's on my board? And can I tell you how much money I've raised? Great, you've raised money because there's so much VC money in California right now, it's coming down from the sky. And sure, loads of people would love to sit on your board because it's a free option. When are you going to see a shift? Is it going to be that unicorns are going to die this year, that will face them to wake up?
You know, look, you know this world better than I do. We start the first day of the year and China fucking goes, that starts making everybody scared here. Things have already tightened up. For example, in the angel investing New York tech landscape, the idea of walking into these 10 to 15 firms here in New York and saying, here's my idea, I want $4 million valuation, has quickly become, I want a $2.5 million valuation, right? You're gonna hear about enormous amounts of down rounds.
Then in a perverse way, do you actually like this? Because for you, this is an only the strong will survive environment, where a few years ago, companies you invested in, sure, the valuations were flying through the roof, but now this is a survival.
I'm sitting on an enormous amount of paper money on Uber, Pinterest, Snapchat, and many other things, right? Nothing would make me happier than the market completely collapsing and me going to zero on those things.
That's a lie.
It's not a lie. Let me tell you why. It's just not. And let me tell you why. Because I truly, first of all, my behavior in parallel was not to completely just invest in that world.
You don't want them to go to zero though.
I feel as if they deserve to go to zero based on meritocracy and market behavior, then fuck it, let them go to zero. I swear on my children's life. Yes, that is how I feel. Now, I think that Snapchat and Uber and Pinterest won't, because I actually think those are good businesses. But do I think that there is a ton of unicorns that will be exposed as rhinoceroses? Yes, I do, right? And do I think on a totally different level, is there thousands of startups that are running around right now that will quickly go to zero? Yes, I do. And I think that is in my financial best interest, because I've built a very practical business that kicks a lot of cash, and I'm very intrigued to take that cash and buy shit on a nickel on the dollar as they go to zero because they couldn't get funding. So maybe on paper, I take one step back, but I know exactly what I want to do during this wartime.